Well, get ready, Chicago. We're set to see billions, possibly even more cicadas this spring. With Illinois, the center of emergence, we will see more than anywhere else in the country. Experts telling our Tara Molina there will be no avoiding them, but there are ways to prepare for them. She's joining us with those details and more.
This will be the first sign, right around the middle of May. This is a cicada shell. This is what they'll look like when they emerge, and they will be everywhere. You'll see these before you hear them.
It's going to be this mass invasion, but a peaceful one.
Ready or not, Chicago, here come the cicadas. No, none quite this big. We will not see something like this.
No, we will not.
This is us.
This is us. Also, this is us. These are the ones we see most years.
That's Alan Lawrence.
These are the nymphs that crawl out of the ground.
Associate Curator of Entomology at the Peggy Notebart Nature Museum.
They're going to be everywhere.
He says billions, possibly trillions of cicadas will buzz around the city and the entire state, where two different broods will crawl out of the ground at once.
And come out all together at the same time in this mass emergence.
Something that hasn't happened since Thomas Jefferson was president. And whether you call their mating call buzz, singing, or screaming, you'll be hearing, seeing, and dodging cicadas for about a month. The cicadas we'll see here, they've been underground since 2007, for 17 years. In Springfield, they'll see both broods, the other underground for 13 years. Sustained by plant roots, he says you don't need to worry about them emerging from any part of your home. Once they do come up,
they will definitely be in people's yards. They will be all around people's homes, but they're not likely to get into your home.
Cicadas aren't toxic. They don't bite or sting and won't go after your garden. But if you've recently planted a tree, this is the time to put a cover over it. They're actually good for the soil. That means your lawn and wildlife, according to the EPA, already warning pesticides aren't effective against them.
Leave them alone and they will go away eventually.
And when they do, something else to prepare for. Keep that snow shovel handy.
You will find piles of their bodies just sort of scattered around. You may have to shovel them off your sidewalk.
The cicadas are expected to clear out by the end of June. We put more on what to expect and resources shared by the experts we talked to in the story you'll find on our website right now. Reporting inside the Peggy Notebart Nature Museum in Lincoln Park, I'm Tara Molina, CBS 2 News.
Spring is here, and soon the cicadas will be too. More than 1 trillion of the loud insects will swarm parts of the U.S. later this month. 2 different cicada broods will simultaneously emerge from the ground for the first time since, get this, 1803. In all, about 16 states in the central and eastern U.S. will be filled with the sound of cicadas. For more, we are joined now by Dr. Sammy Ramsey. He studies all things insects at the University of Colorado Boulder. It's good to have you with us, Dr. Ramsey. So
it's absolutely great to be here.
This is a rare double occurrence. Are you excited about this event? What will happen when all these insects emerge?
Oh, I could not be more excited about this event. I mean, this hasn't happened since before the telegraph was invented, like before light bulbs were a thing. Now we've got smartphones. It's a different world, and I think it's going to be such an exciting experience.
Well, tell us what regions will be most heavily impacted.
So I've been seeing a lot online. People have been saying that these cicadas are going to swarm the entirety of the United States, and that's not the case at all. It'll be somewhere between 15 and 17 states that get to see any of the cicadas, and usually they'll just see one of the two broods. So brood 13 and brood 19 are coming out of the ground. But there's only really just 2 states where we'll see both cicada broods at the same time. They're going to get a double whammy, and you can believe I will be traveling to either Iowa or Illinois to get to see this in person.
Oh, Iowa has wonderful cicadas, and that brings up a good point, because some people like me actually love the sounds of cicadas. I associate them with carefree childhood summer days. It sounds like you're pretty excited about them. I remember playing with their exoskeletons. Other people I know are creeped out that we're even talking about this at all. So how should people prepare? Is this something you can prepare for?
It's not something that you need to prepare for. And by the way, I'm really excited to have another cicada fan interviewing me, because usually the language that comes along with this is very panic-inducing. People are told they're going to be swarmed by cicadas, that it's going to be an invasion. I've even heard cicada apocalypse used, but they're just not like that. These bugs are coming out of the ground. They've spent 17 years under the ground just consistently waiting for this moment so that they can come above ground and sing this beautiful love song to attract a mate. At the end of the day, I like to think of it sort of like a rave. There's going to be loud music and hormonal teenagers, but at the end of the day, things are fine.
And loud, they certainly are. We just showed our viewers a graphic. I think it's so interesting if you compare the sound of cicadas to the sound of things like a jet engine or a police siren. They're actually louder than a police siren and just a little bit quieter than a jet plane. How do they make that much noise?
So they don't actually make the noise the way that a lot of insects make noise. When we think about crickets and katydids making the noises that they make, they're actually rubbing 2 parts of their bodies together. But the ways that cicadas actually make this noise, they have an organ inside of their body that they deform. Like the cap on applesauce or Snapple or something, it makes that popping noise when you deform it. They're doing that, but at such a rapid rate that it creates this swell of noise all around them. And even though they're much smaller than a jet engine, if you could bring them up to similar size, they would be able to rival that noise. And so having all of them together really creates this entire symphony.
I love how fascinating you have brought all this wonderful information to us. Dr. Sammy Ramsey, thank you.
So glad to be here.
So a massive cicada invasion is expected to hit the U.S. this spring and summer. 2 cicada broods are making a simultaneous comeback for the first time in over 200 years.
Trillions of the insects are expected to emerge across a 16-state area, mainly in the South and Midwest. Illinois and Iowa are expected to experience the emergence of both broods. To help us understand what's going on, let's bring in Dr. Matt Kase. He's an associate professor of mycology and plant pathology at West Virginia University. So you are definitely the best person, Professor, to explain to us in simple terms, why is this happening now?
Well, we should first say that, a lot of people travel to see the eclipse because it's such a biological phenomenon. But this itself is a real biological phenomenon. Periodical cicadas only exist here in the eastern United States, and different broods emerge in different years. This happens to be the first time in 221 years that the Great Southern brood and the Illinois brood are overlapping. So the first time in 220 years, they're coming up together. So there'll be some overlap in eastern Iowa and central Illinois, where these 2 broods are emerging in mass. And we're talking billions to trillions of cicadas.
I'm glad you brought up the eclipse because I've seen people blame the eclipse. People blame the eclipse for everything.
Right.
Their bad marriages, the cicadas,
I know. It's
everything.
like, come
it has nothing to do with the
on.
eclipse. But that being said, is there anything we should do to prepare for this?
Well, I think it's important to know that these cicadas don't have mouth parts that can hurt us. They're sap-feeding insects, so although they are a nuisance as far as noise outside goes, there's no harm they pose directly to you. In fact, some people eat them. That's their own thing. But yeah, they can damage small trees that are just transplanted. So young saplings that might have just been planted in your yard, you can cover up with some netting and things like that. But I would say just enjoy their emergence because this phenomenon doesn't happen all the time.
So what makes this different from the massive cicada emergence that we saw?
Because I feel like we do this every few years.
We're like, oh no, the cicadas are coming.
Yeah.
It's a plague. But like, what was different about the one that we saw in D.C.?
Yeah, that's a great question. In D.C., back in 2021, we had brood 10 emerge, and those were only 17-year cicadas. What we have is the dual emergence of 13-year and 17-year cicadas. So 13-year cicadas consist of like 4 species of closely related cicadas, and the 17-year cicadas are 3 closely related species. So you have 7 total species overlapping in time and space in an area, particularly the South, where we haven't seen them in a number of years.
So what are you going to be doing? How are you going to take this in, this monumental moment?
Yeah, I don't live in the area where they're emerging, but I'm going to be traveling to sample them. I study a fungus that infects the cicadas. It's a specialist on these cicadas. So I'll be traveling out to capture samples of that fungus infecting the cicadas.
It feels like we're always like it was murder hornets, right? Then it was like
listen, we had an earthquake,
murder hornets, and then the lantern flies that we were told to like kill, which I could not really do. So I'm sure Dr. Kase will have you on again at some point.
Concerning times.
Exactly. Good to talk with you.
So it's almost cicada season, and we are set to see billions, possibly even more than anywhere else in that country. So as we prepare for this insect invasion, the same question keeps coming up. How do these creepy crawlers mix with our four-legged friends? What do pet owners need to know with swarms expected everywhere? New tonight, our Tara Molina spent the day with a vet getting those answers.
So you've got a pet like Charlie, and he eats a cicada. He eats a bunch of cicadas. What do you do, and when is it time to come into an office like this one? We got answers for you.
No, that's okay.
Poppy the puppy couldn't be friendlier.
But you haven't noticed any of that since you got her.
But what does dog dad, Caleb, need to know once this little ball of energy is running around with a bunch of cicadas?
So if she sees one, she's going to go after it.
When you got one of your adult teeth coming in.
Knowing if there's any kind of toxic things we should be worried about.
This is Apollo.
We asked the experts.
They are not toxic to pets. They won't sting or bite your pet. The only issue we'll present for your pet is if they were to ingest a large amount of them, or if they're a smaller dog, if they ate a small piece of the exoskeleton, sometimes that can really irritate their GI tract.
Dr. Cynthia Gonzalez is talking about this shell. Shells, we're told, will cover the ground once the billions of cicadas we expect to see emerge and shed them.
Sometimes in rare instances, an animal might have an allergic reaction to some of the components in that exoskeleton if that pet is also allergic to shellfish.
Who knew? The shellfish of the sky.
In what situation would someone need to call you?
If you notice that after the ingestion, your pet's showing any signs of vomiting, diarrhea, decreased appetite, those would be symptoms that you should call your vet.
With 17-year cicadas expected to cover your yard, your local park, the sidewalk, anywhere you may go with your pet.
We're interested to know how she deals with them for sure.
The experts tell us the best thing you can do is prepare.
I would recommend that you start to think about proactively how and where you're going to walk your dog or give your dog activity so that you can minimize areas that are going to have a lot of cicadas on the ground.
We've got more information on what to expect with these cicadas and what pet owners need to know in the story that's up on our website right now. Reporting inside Family Pet Animal Hospital in Lincoln Park, I'm Tara Molina, CBS 2 News.